Welcome back. We'll pick up where we left off in the short story The Necklace on page 70. We just left off where Madame Loisel's husband gives her the recommendation to ask a friend to borrow some jewelry. And she hadn't thought of that. So we left off where she says she gave a cry of joy. Yes, that did not occur to me. So I'll resume with this final sentence here, and we'll read pages 70 and 71 before you return to your reading workshop guide. The next day, she went to visit her friend and told her about the problem. Madame Forestier went to her large closet with mirrored doors, took out a big jewelry box, brought it to Madame Loisel, opened it, and said, "Choose whatever you like, my dear." Her eyes wandered over some bracelets, then a pearl necklace, then a gold Venetian cross set with stones. She tried on the jewelry in front of the mirror, but she could not decide what to choose. Suddenly, she discovered a superb diamond necklace in a black satin case. Her heart started beating faster, and her hands trembled as she picked it up. She fastened it around her neck and stood there, gazing at herself in ecstasy. Ecstasy is a great vocab word. Let's take a quick peek at the bottom of the page. That means extreme happiness. Her voice was hesitant and filled with agony when she asked, "Could you lend me this one? Just this and nothing else?" "Yes, of course." She threw her arms around her friend, kissed her cheek, and then fled with her treasure. The day of the party arrived. Madame Loisel was a great success. She was the prettiest woman there. She was elegant, fashionable, and gracious, and she was beaming with happiness. All the men looked at her, asked who she was, and begged to be introduced. All the cabinet officials wanted to waltz with her. Even the minister noticed her. She danced madly, thinking of nothing but her beauty and success. She was dazed by all the admiration and floated in a happy cloud brought on by all her awakened desires. She felt the complete victory that is so sweet to a woman's heart. She went to find her husband around 4 o'clock in the morning. Whoa, that's a late party. Since midnight, he had been napping in a small sitting room, along with three other gentlemen whose wives were having a wonderful time. He covered her shoulders with her wraps. They were plain from her everyday life, and their shabbiness clashed with the elegance of her evening gown. She felt this and longed to escape quickly so that the other women who were dis- who were sorry, so that the other women who were covered in expensive furs would not see her. Loisel held her back. "Wait, you'll catch cold outside. I'll go for the cab." But she wouldn't listen to him and went quickly down the stairs. When they reached the street, they did not see a carriage. They set out to find one, waving at the drivers they saw in the distance. They walked toward the Seine, desperate and shivering. Finally, they found a cab on the wharf. It was one of those old carriages that are only seen at night in Paris, as if they are too ashamed to show their shabbiness during the daylight. It took them to their door in the Rue des Martyrs, and they climbed sadly up to their apartment. For her, it was all over. He was thinking that he had to be at the ministry at 10 o'clock. She took off her wraps in front of the mirror so that she could see herself once again in all her glory. Suddenly, she cried out. There was nothing around her neck. The necklace was gone. Her husband, who was already half undressed, asked, "What's the matter?" She turned toward him in a panic. "I I I don't have Madame Forestier's necklace." "What? That's impossible." Now will be a good time to stop and open up your digital reading workshop. And after we read page 70 and 71, you can answer questions 6 and 7, plus the characterization review and a prediction. Question number 6 asks, how would Madame Loisel describe her friend's home and jewels, and how does this setting influence her choice? And 7 asks, how does Madame Loisel change in this setting? What does this tell you about her? Lastly, for characterization review, what kind of person is Madame Loisel? What impression are you getting of her so far based on what she says, what she's done, what she thinks? And lastly, before you continue listening, make sure you pause to predict. How do you think that the Loisels will solve their problem of the lost necklace? All right, have you made your prediction? This is a pretty tricky situation for them to be in. Let's continue. They searched in the folds of her dress and the folds of her wraps, in the pockets, everywhere. They found nothing. He asked, are you sure you still had it when we left the ball? Yes, I felt it in the hallway of the ministry. But if you lost it in the street, we would have heard it fall. It must be in the cab. Yes, most likely. Did you get its number? No. What about you? No. They looked at each other in shock. Finally, Loisel got dressed again. I'm going to retrace our steps on foot to see if I can find it, he said, and he left the house. She slumped in her chair in the cold room, her mind a blank. Keep that phrase in mind for later. Her husband returned around 7 o'clock. He had found nothing. The next day, he went to the police station, to the cab companies, and anywhere there was the slightest hope of finding it. He placed an advertisement in the paper offering a reward. She spent the whole day waiting, feeling completely hopeless in the face of such an awful disaster. Notice here, feeling completely hopeless. When Loisel returned that evening, her face was pale and lined. He had learned nothing. You must write to your friend, he said. Tell her that you broke the clasp of the necklace and that you are having it repaired. That will give us time to think. She wrote the letter at his dictation. By the end of the week, they had lost all hope. Loisel, who looked like he had aged 5 years, declared, we must replace the necklace. The next day, they went to the jeweler, whose name they found inside the case. He looked through the records. I did not sell this necklace, madam, he said. I only supplied the case. Then they went from one jeweler to the next, trying to find a similar necklace. Both of them felt sick with worry and anguish. In a shop in the Palais Royal, they found a string of diamonds which looked exactly like the one they were seeing. It was worth 40,000 francs. They could have it for 36,000. They begged the jeweler to hold it for them for 3 days. He agreed to take it back for 34,000 francs if they found the other necklace before the end of February. Loisel had 18,000 francs that his father had left him. He would borrow the rest. He borrowed, asking 1,000 francs from one man, 500 from another, 100 here, 50 there. He signed promissory notes and made deals that could ruin him with all kinds of people. He compromised the rest of his life, agreeing to pay back money even when he wasn't sure he would be able to do it. Then, terrified of a future of anxiety and black misery, he went to get the new necklace and placed 36,000 francs on the jeweler's counter. When Madame Loisel took the necklace back, Madame Forestier said coldly, you could have brought it back sooner. I might have needed it. She did not open the case as her friend had feared. If she had noticed the substitution, what would she have thought? What would she have said? Wouldn't she have thought Mademoiselle was a thief? One vocab word I'd like to point out to you is promissory notes, papers that promised he would pay back the money he had borrowed. So we see that up here. Madame Loisel's husband signed promissory notes, basically IOUs, for debts that he would now owe many other people. Now is a good time for you to stop and answer questions 8 and 9 in your reading guide. You'll have to find the word compromised here on this page. So check that out here to help you answer question 9.